really what programming is about. And it wasn't until I was actually done with college and started working at IBM, and I found these amazing people that were actually making visual things on the web. They were taking programming and they were taking data and information, and they were inspiring other people and giving them the tools to then just go and look at this data however they want. To do that is to, we say eat your own dog food. To actually try what you build, right? If you're going to build tools for other people to use, you better make sure that those tools are doing exactly what it is you think they are, right? What I really want to talk about is 7 different types of interactive storytelling. So the first one is this idea of a magazine style. And a magazine style is exactly what it sounds like, is if you imagine having a paper magazine, you would have, a single frame, maybe an image or 2 at most. The second one is this idea of an annotated chart. A chart is anything from just that line graphs. The third piece is something that they call the partitioned poster. And the way that it's different is that instead of having one single view, you might have multiple different views. And a flowchart you see a lot with something, a style called the infographic style. A lot of the times you will have literal arrows that are pointing people to where they should be reading. And it's, again, very much a guided story, but it very often involves less text than you'd see in, for example, a magazine style. So the 5th style, and I think a less common one, is a comic strip. So it's similar to magazine style, but it's a comic strip, right? You think about Batman and all your other Marvel comics. There are panels, and the panels are separate, and they connect with the single narrative, and they're sequential, right? So the 6th style is this idea of slideshow. And I think this one, I have 3 different examples, because I think it's the most popular one, honestly. And the idea here is that you still have a guided experience, right? You want a user to step through a story, and that story is usually linear in some form. And you'll often see, next and previous buttons, things like that. But every slide builds on the previous one, right? So it's kind of a story that you're building over time. And then last but not least is film, video, and animation. And I almost felt bad putting it all together because inside of this category, we have lots of different ways to express ourselves, right? We saw anything from just pure video to, this beautiful movable types videos that Mariana was showing, and everything in between, right? So there's definitely a lot of room there. I've told you all these different examples, and there are different, if you take all of them together, there's different combinations that are pretty common. This one is called the martini glass, because you drink after. No, I'm kidding. It starts off, if you think about it, coming from me and going that way, you start off and you have a linear story, right? Again, it's that thin stem, it's linear, the user follows you along, and at the end of that story, you have this explosion. And what that means is they can go and interact with the data. The second one, again, is this interactive slideshow. So it's a combination in that you still have a very linear story, right? You have these different slides, and you can follow, maybe the magazine style, maybe it's mostly text, maybe it's interactive visualizations. Doesn't really matter, as long as you sort of have just the right amount of something the user can do in every single one. Maybe it's click on stuff, maybe it's get some extra text, but they still sort of follow you along. So you have the slides, but it's still mostly a guided narrative. And then last but not least is what I call a drill down story. And that's when you start off with a main large visualization, right? You start off in the middle, and then maybe interacting with different pieces of it just spawns off little stories on the side, right? So you click on one circle and you get another story somewhere else.